My name's Sue Bampton. I'm the Managing Director of Grotec Landscape Solutions, a landscape design, horticultural and landscaping construction firm on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. I did my study with Australian Correspondence School back in the 90s. In fact, I think I actually did my horticulture too in the late 80s. I did it via correspondence, and to be honest with you, had I not have been able to do it correspondence, I don't think I'd be a horticulturist right now. I had a young boy who was 4 years old at the time when I first started studying. He's now 35. I was working as an interior designer, and my husband had a fairly large plumbing construction company. And yeah, there's just no way I could have studied what I did if I had to go to college or into school to do so. At that time I was an interior designer, and what I was finding was we were putting all of this energy into the interior of the homes and the paint colours of the exterior of the homes, but the gardens, you know, the $1 million homes in Sanctuary Cove at the time, these were the first ones that were built in that estate back then, the gardens were atrocious, and I really started to look at the space around the house and thought, wouldn't it be nice if all that effort that we put into the interior of the home, we could actually replicate or merge in with the gardens that were growing around that home at the time. So that's where my interest in horticulture began. And then at the time, my husband and I purchased our first home, and there was no garden. So this became my teacher and a perfect opportunity to experiment with the soil and the plants that at the time I was experimenting with. So my business has been operating for 30 years, just over 30 years now. It's called Grotec Landscape Solutions. We have, so that's 30 years here on the Gold Coast. We have 3 members of the team in office every day. Elle, who's our projects liaison manager, and she looks after, once the client has, she sends the quotes. Once the client comes back and says, yes, I'd like to proceed with the landscape planning phase, she then looks after that client from then all the way through the process that we go through with them. So we may just do a landscape design plan for that client and send them off into the world to build it at their own pace or with their own team of landscapers. Or the client may ask us to help them bring a team together and construct that project. So she babysits that project right through until the client is delighted at the end of the project. We have Katana, who's our apprentice horticulturist, and she was recently named the BMM Award Winner of the Year, which is a huge accomplishment for a young 20-year-old apprentice horticulturist. She's off to England in a couple of months' time, and we'll be working with some of the famous names in horticulture and landscaping for the month of May, which is very exciting for her, and we're very, very proud to have her as a member of our team. We have a landscape designer, Jared, who works with me every day on all our landscape planning. And then we have all our landscape teams, and that can be anyone from just our general landscapers to our carpenters, to our pavers, to our tilers, to our concreters, to our pergola builders. We have a massive team, so we're as big or as small as we need to be depending on the seasons, depending on the project. Some of our projects are $30,000, some of our projects are $500,000. So we pull together this wonderful team of people that I've been collecting over the years and can accomplish anything that the client requires. We draw up the plans, as I said, and then if required, we introduce the client to the most suitable tradespeople who can assist them with their project. We brief the team, they quote directly to the client for the manual sides of the project, and our own Grotec team quotes on us and assists with the supply of plants, the placement of plants, the supply and distribution of soil treatments, composts, and fertilisers needed to go into the project. What inspired me to work in landscaping was a love of plants. I fell in love with cottage garden plants. Being here in the subtropics, I didn't understand at the moment that I couldn't grow foxgloves and delphiniums and tulips and daffodils and, you know, some of the really beautiful shrub roses. But I learned that in time. We do have our subtropical versions of some of these plants. So it was a real fun experimental time in my first garden, playing with cottage gardens. And I guess over the last 30 years what I found is that a subtropical garden, particularly that's low maintenance, is not necessarily cottage garden plants. It can be any number of beautiful plants that we have access to, and whether our clients are looking for a native garden, an ornamental garden, an edible garden, a rainforest garden, I love all the plants, and I always struggle to actually figure out which of the beauties that are available to us will actually pull together into a plan. So my inspiration has always been about the plants. A landscape designer basically helps a client pull together what it is that they want to do outside the perimeter of their home. Now that can include, of course, gardens and turf, but it also includes areas like alfresco entertainment areas, fire pits, decks, pergolas, gazebos, pools, pool surrounds, pool fencing, driveways, paths, so many different areas that really need to be plotted out on plan before the client actually constructs them, because you know what happens if you don't plan? It ends up being a bit of a disaster, and you can actually waste a lot of money piecing bits and pieces together that don't work in harmony with one another. So that's what a landscape designer does. My typical day, I rise at 5 a.m. and I get centered and prepared for the day through meditation and exercise. I'm generally in the office at 8:30 in the morning, and my day varies from planning designs in office for our clients. It can be on-site meeting with our clients, through the planning phase or through the construction phase, overseeing the construction and planting up of our landscaping projects. So every day is different, just depends on what's going on in our office at any particular time. My advice for anyone coming into the industry: if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Horticulture and landscaping with plants is a very satisfying industry to work in. It becomes even more fascinating when you begin to understand the basics of horticulture and how important our role can be in protecting Mother Earth from carelessness and neglect. Too many poisons are being used on this planet right now, and it's affecting our soils, our plants, our bees and insects, the air that we breathe, our own personal health, and the health of our pets. There are far too many people running around at the moment calling themselves horticulturists and landscapers who have very little knowledge to back that up. These people are freely and carelessly spraying poisons around people's homes, around our own homes, and our commercial environments, our parks. They're fertilising our plants with high nitrogen chemical-based fertilisers that are in the long time hurting our plants and our soils. They're hacking away at our plants and have no knowledge of how to correctly prune them, hence everything being boxed into hedges that we see everywhere in the city that I live in. So my advice is, if you are going to enter into this industry, learn all you can about whatever knowledge it is you want to share with your clients. If you're going to do something, anything, do it to the best of your ability each day, so that at the end of every day you can relax and feel satisfied and fulfilled with your contribution and sharing of knowledge with others, whilst here living this life on this earth. I highly recommend John Mason and his team as a very, very knowledgeable team of teachers and guides on so many subjects. I mean, they really were the foundation. My tutor was Paul Plant, who was very, very well known in the industry, in the horticulture industry, and the editor of Subtropical magazine. But I had a wonderful foundational learning with John and the team, and I can highly recommend them to you if you're interested in going into horticulture. But any aspect of horticulture, any industry that you're interested in going in, I believe John has a course for you. So check them out. I have nothing but wonderful, good things to say about them. Thank you.